Tonight is Tuesday, November 22nd. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I said, it is Tuesday, November 22nd. This is the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Welcome. Our first order of business is to get the agenda in order. If I can have we are already in session, so if I can have a motion to accept the agenda as presented. So moved. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any items anybody would like to pull off the consent agenda? Can I have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the items removed from the consent agenda would be an acceptance of a donation from the Hendrick Hudson, HHCEF, and it is a donation in the amount of $1,511.22 for goggles and a speaker. Safety goggles and to pay for a speaker who conducted a breast cancer awareness seminar. I think that's terrific. Thank you very much to the HHCEF for this donation. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Take a pass on audience comments and bring you to the superintendent's report.
Okay, some quick pieces of information and celebrations. The Journal News yesterday highlighted some of our safety measures in our district, in particular our high school. A great story on this district's effort to create a safe environment, but not a police state environment. As many of you know, we increased the number of security guards, security personnel. We hired 3 new individuals in the fall. We highlighted them with a district release as well as a Facebook post, and it's one of the most commented, clicked, liked, read Facebook posts we had this year. Last year in our budget development process, our district as well as many others were going through the process of whether entertaining the school resource officer was a viable option or what other avenues exist to increase safety and security and a presence of safety. Enrique and I went down and met with our colleagues in Briarcliff, who for years have gone the route of safety personnel, where the vast majority are retired police officers or detectives, folks who are already trained, who have retired and still want to stay involved. So we took the Briarcliff model and applied it to our high school, and we're able to find some talented young men who just happen to be retired from various police forces. So they are with us. You've probably seen them wandering the halls or at the front desk, and the goal over the next couple months are to introduce the gentlemen to the middle school and the elementary school and to create a more district-wide presence. But right now they're at the high school, and the Journal News did a great job capturing what we're trying to achieve with safety. It's not about catching kids doing something wrong. It's about building relationships and creating an environment of trust. So if you haven't read it, please do. It's a great article and a testament to what we're trying to do along with many schools to have the right people in the right positions to make the right impact on kids. Yeah. A graduate from Hen Hud High School in June of 2013, who is graduating from Harvard this May, is going to the UK and is a Rhodes Scholar. Maya Silber is heading across the pond to study. We're not sure if she's going to do the 2 or the 3-year stint, but she was one of a very select group of individuals who was offered the opportunity to apply for Rhodes Scholar. I believe 2,500 applied, and she was one of 90 who were accepted. But it's not an open application; you have to be invited. So it's very, very prestigious. We've reached out to her, but haven't gotten in touch with her.
She's busy.
The media requests must be overwhelming. And if you're at Harvard and planning on being a Rhodes Scholar, I'm sure you're
Talk to Maya,
otherwise.
she'll help the other.
You're otherwise committed. On Saturday, we had the Wizards game. The Community Foundation hosted the Wizards against the Henhud All-Stars, and despite the All-Stars' best effort, the Wizards beat them by about 15 points, but most importantly, raised over $10,000 for the foundation. It was a packed house, a bunch of screaming kids, 6 players from the Wizards who did a phenomenal job keeping the program rolling, keeping everyone engaged, dunking, making trick shots, all sorts of stuff. It was a great night, and the Education Foundation is going to have a lot of money to spend. So expect some more donations like we accepted tonight. And the night before, on Friday night, our high school drama department put on a night of Disney. It was it was a student-run, low-key event where high schoolers sang and acted out different Disney songs. Many were in costume, many did a little acting gig along with singing. It was an opportunity for young kids to come and interact with the older kids, and there was face painting, and you could dress up in your favorite Disney costume, so it was a really neat night to bring younger kids and our older high school kids
Students
together.
MC the entire thing.
Yep, 2 students
They were
MC.
brave young men.
They only screwed up once, and Claire let them know about it, but that was early in the show, and
She straightened
she
them out.
straightened them out. It was smooth sailing from there, but a nice opportunity to raise some funds for the drama club as they prep for a January performance, and then again later in April. Speaking of which, when we almost come back from Thanksgiving, it is concert time. So make sure you check our district calendar for all of the holiday concerts. Also, Blue Mountain Middle School is putting on a musical on December 2nd and 3rd. So go to what you can attend and watch our students perform. And I'll leave it at that.
It is an active bunch. Okay, thank you very much. Committee reports? It's been a quiet few weeks.
The facilities committee, we're going to be talking about later.
Same with finance
Yeah.
now, so. All right, so then that would bring us directly to the presentation discussion, and that would be the review of the budget calendar.
And this is just more of a discussion heads up. We have a very standard process of approving and laying out our budget calendar and timeline. And I know there were some discussions we had last spring and into the falls whether or not we wanted to change some of the presentation dates and those sort of things. We met with the Finance Committee, and our recommendation is to leave the budget calendar alone, because any change to the calendar would really create some hardship on preparing for those presentations, but would also create some very, very long nights for us. So as we continue to discuss the potential of a capital project resulting in a bond referendum, we thought that if we kept the budget calendar status quo, we would have a little more predictability in terms of our time and being able to get through everything in a detailed fashion for you guys and the public. And the second presentation is half presentation, half discussion, and Anthony will lead us through the packet that you have. 2 weeks ago, we presented highlights of our building condition survey, which was completed last spring, talking about some big concerns thematically that came out of that study. Around HVAC, around sidewalk repair, lighting, doors, safety, egress. I could go on and on, but you guys get the picture. So what the board asked us to come back with was a better idea and some more concrete suggestions in terms of, if we were to do a project, what would we recommend and where would those improvements take place? So we had some conversations with our architects, and what you have here is what we receive. It comes in Excel, and we can change things around and reprioritize. But essentially, there are There are three ways to approach any sort of repair or work to our schools. One is what we're already doing or what we can pay for without a bond, without borrowing. All right, routine maintenance, things that Anthony and his team do on a schedule, a rotating schedule, or small little projects that we're able to take care of. The second cluster is a bond, where you've got to go out and borrow money, you've got to ask for the public to support it, and they essentially approve a project in a scope. And we started talking about that 2 weeks ago. The third chunk are things that we would like to have done, but they're not pressing. We don't need them yesterday, today, or tomorrow, but they're things we should keep our eyes on. Maybe
That's priority 2.
4 or 6 years. I'll have Anthony explain. I'm just in general. 4 or 6 years down the road, and maybe a bond in the future. And our conversation that we had 2 weeks ago was, if we were to do major renovations to the buildings, how could we match up any potential work with debt that we are retiring? And Enrique showed us a couple slides where we have debt that's retiring in the 2017-18 school year, around $12 million. And in the 2022-23, we have about $34 million that's retiring. One school of thought, which a lot of our local districts entertain, is when you have debt retiring and you have a legitimate need for improvements, go out with new borrowing, because if your retiring debt matches new borrowing, there would not be any increase in taxes. Other conversations districts have is whether or not you let the debt retire, and that creates a tax reduction. What we're finding, and with some visits, meetings we had with folks in Pleasantville, is with the calculation of the property tax cap, it becomes very, very difficult to catch up when you reduce your taxes, because you can only raise your taxes based on a formula with a simple majority of the vote. If you want to exceed the tax cap, you need a supermajority, and there are a whole other set of regulations. So this document is more of a reference for everybody. Because of the timing, we weren't able to walk the entire Finance Committee through this document, but we're going to meet with the Finance Committee. We're shooting for the week of December 5th, and then we would fully vet this and come back to the board at our next board meeting on December 14th. So with that, I'll let Anthony walk us through some of these and point you to certain areas that you might be interested in.
I'll try to bring you a little bit through it. As you're going through the document, you're going to see for each facility or each building, there's going to be a year 1, there's going to be a year 2, year 3, 4, and 5. Year 1 is what we're in right now, so that's 2016. So we're not really doing anything for a bond or whatever in 2016, except for what I'm doing through maintenance or what we're doing from the old bond. So where you see the year 1 total, you'll see there's maintenance projects underneath there, under maintenance, and then current bond work or completed work that's going to carry through in year 1. Year 2 is going to be what we're sticking this work under. So that's going to be this bond that we're proposing. So that's going to be the bond where we're addressing some of these paving issues, health and safety issues, classroom space issues, etc. is going to fall under that. We're also going to have maintenance underneath that as well. And then right now, the architect has everything in priority 1. So if you total up everything he has in priority 1, it's more than we're looking to support with the bond. So I have to go through that with another iteration and set those out. So you'll see it says priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. And I'll sit down with Joe, Enrique, and I'll sit down with facilities, and I'll also sit down with the architect and other individuals and try to push that out, because we're going to pick and choose what we really want to do in that year. Year 3, how he has it allocated is smart bond work. So smart bond work, if you remember, is this grant that we have through the state. And that money, or those projects, are allocated through that smart bond, and that's something that I work with Matthew with He has security in there, PA systems in there, a couple other communication systems in there. If you total up that, that's more than our smart bond, but we have to go through that as well, figure out what we're going to take out with the smart bond, and then that'll get captured in year 4 and 5 with their future bond work, and year 5 being additional work and stuff that we might need to carry forward to match up with other debt that's retired. So that's kind of how the picture works. And I wanted you to get to see this draft of, how they have it set up now with maintenance and the priorities, so you get an idea of what projects they're proposing and how we're going to push that out.
So one of the ideas is I have a middle schooler, and if we were to do a project that got approved in May and the funding is available the following year, by the time you get state approval, you're putting a shovel in the ground somewhere in the spring of 18. So by that time, my son or daughter will be a high schooler. What are some of the improvements they may expect or be a part of in the high school? So you can flip to the high school page and you can see what some of the recommendations are. Now, as Anthony said, we want to match up recommendations with potential borrowing. If money was not an option, we could do all of this and say to our community, hey, we're all caught up, we have nothing else to worry about, but we're going to need to increase taxes because we need to borrow 50 some odd million bucks. So this is a standard process districts go through. It'd be nice to do and have everything, but as we said a couple weeks ago, the idea would be to match up the work with the retiring debt and continue that cycle going forward. Some of these things, many of these things are not going to be visible to the naked eye, perhaps, when you talk about asbestos abatement, fixtures, HVAC, tile replacement. They're nuts and bolts. This is going to feel like a much bigger and more involved project that we approved 3 years ago. Remember, we approved $6.2 million, a little bit of technology, and a lot just routine maintenance. A lot of this work is routine maintenance. Although we've had an interest for the last number of years of talking about bigger things, science room renovations, auditorium renovations, and track and field renovations.
Anthony, just in general, and I apologize if I missed this, you have the maintenance. So those are things that no matter what, year to year, they're going to get done. I mean, you're taking that out of the approved budget, that the year-to-year budget that's approved. No bond, anything that's under maintenance is something that you will be taking care of.
Right, and I also have to vet that as well. So I have to go through that and see what is work that my guys can complete, work that's going to fit under our budget for the coming year, and work that we might have to contract out. Because if you total up the numbers for year 2, he has about $1 million worth of work. So I really don't have $1 million budget to do maintenance work. So
then we would have to pick and choose. It's not necessarily, or you would shift it around from year to year.
Correct. I mean, if you look, even if you go through, you'll see like in year 3, he doesn't have anything underneath the maintenance. He really just has the smart bond. And then the same thing with like year 4, he's carrying a negative balance, a zero balance, and the same thing year 5. So even though it's $1 million that he has in year 2, that could be spread out over those 3 years.
But so the maintenance, though, it's in theory, if you add up all the maintenance, that will be allocated over 5 years in some way, shape, or form, but come out of the approved budget, the budget that we present. Correct, the one that we present. So then, if you look at the priority one, that is what you're anticipating as being something that we would have a bond for.
Yes.
If to pay for the items within priority 1, that would be.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be bonded. So priority 1, 2, and 3 just designates, where we see it in the scheme of rush, something that really needs to be done right away. And some of these things hinge upon others, and some of these projects are projects that are wish list items, and we can push them off to another year because SED is okay with us getting them done as long as they see us getting them to work completed.
So these
there
are
may
all-
be there may be sort of like an accessibility issue in a building for like ADA compliance, but because of the work that we've been doing over the years for ADA compliance and the amount of the building that is ADA compliant, sometimes when there's just maybe a bathroom or space or whatever, because
There
we've been doing.
are alternatives, or
Yes.
if they see that you're making efforts to improve the rest of it. There's not, and again, just at first glance here, there doesn't seem to be a lot in 2 and 3. And my guess is you're just going to stagger those out based on the conversations that we'll be having.
The Hunt Architects, have we used them before, or are they new? We know just from Orsets, and they're
This is the first time we've
first time, and they're aware of what Westchester costs are going to be when they're costing this out there.
I believe so, because they do have other clients in the area. And when we've done some of the work already that they've costed out, so like they costed out some work at BV, they costed out some work at Furnace Woods, and we've either done it through the bond or I've done it with my own resources, and the numbers have been, so far,
They've done a
been
good
right
job so
there.
far.
So far, yeah, it's been pretty good.
We've used them before, you're saying, so then
I've never used it.
your familiarity with their numbers and stuff, it's just, you've eyeballed it, as you're saying.
So where we go from here, we're putting out a survey to the community, which every resident will receive a postcard directing them to the website to take the survey. On Friday, we're going to email blast parents with the link to the survey, but we can't email everyone. We don't have everyone's email address. And the survey is a temperature check. We did a similar survey 3 years ago, which led us to develop the bond that was approved in December of 2013. This is the same intent. Would you support a project that includes ABC, XYZ? Why would you? Why wouldn't you? But it's better worded than that. Reasons I would support this are because. Reasons I would not support this are because. Identical wording to survey we did 3 years ago, and I even believe in 2012 and 8. So the idea is to create some longitudinal data to see if the opinions of our community have changed. For a long time, we have been talking about 3 big areas we would like to see addressed: science rooms, auditoriums, and track and field. And I'm using the plural on purpose: middle school, high school, science rooms; middle school, high school, auditorium, track and field. So we're going to ask those questions again, and residents will have until December 9th to finish the survey. So a lot of things will come together on the 14th. We'll have another draft of this document with the check of the community and see what they're thinking.
By that point, we'll have priorities on the things, or is that too
Well-
early to have that done?
Have a sense of
Well, we'll have a sense of it.
Better.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff
There's a lot of stuff here.
There's a lot of stuff to go through, and I think the ultimate question is if we have data from our community saying, yes, I would support a bond, and yes, I would support these big initiatives. I think the question for us then to determine is, to go back to the conversation Enrique led, we have debt that's retiring. What do we want to do with that? We have things that need to be done. We have a community telling us ABC, XYZ, and we have debt that's retiring. And that's a really important conversation for us to have to see if we're going to put the 3 together and go out and communicate to the community that we would like their support for a bond.
A big piece of this, and I'm just curious, is what you and Enrique deem to be necessary based on, whether it's, because of the water, because of safety concerns, because of whatever. Are those the items that you have, have you prioritized it already in sort of move those into maintenance?
I've started to, but I haven't finished yet. I was talking to Enrique about that today. We how we have to move things around to.
Because I think that's the starting point of the conversation. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like you know, what you deem to be like critical.
What I've gathered from previous conversations was that with something of this scope, there's no other way to pay for this than by getting a bond. You can't squirrel away enough money over time to pay for these things.
We don't have that luxury.
Okay. Well, December 9th, 14th should be interesting.
There is another component that, Hunt will provide with this. So Hunt is going to provide another spreadsheet that goes along with this that's going to have the other fees that goes along with this. The architecture fees, the engineering fees, the escalation fees, et cetera, and all those contingency fees. They were emailing it to me today. I just got it right before I came up here, so I haven't had the opportunity to go through it and reproduce it for you for reviewing. So that's another component that you'll see as well. And then how the spreadsheet will work is as I move numbers around and everything, it'll recalculate, reposition it, and they'll be able to see it how it's going to lay out, how it's going to move.
And just to remember to come full circle, these recommendations and the line items you see are a result of the building condition survey process. So these things had to be checked and poked and prodded in order to meet the demands of state ed. And as we know from all of our experience with state ed, sometimes what state ed asks for is not the most relevant information to run the school. So this has to be super thorough to meet those demands, which give us a lot of wiggle room to create a bond. And ultimately what happens is if we create a bond with 50 line item initiatives, essentially what the state does is compare our bond request with the building condition survey and file, and they're making sure that what we submitted in the summer jives with what we're asking in terms of our. So there's a built-in accountability mechanism there.
And just again with Hunt, did we come across these guys by recommendation, or did they have to bid for
We
this?
did an RFP.
Okay.
We did an RFP back in a year ago,
December.
and we did it also to
Solicited
both.
to like 3 or 4 companies. We have them come in, they all presented, and out of the 4, we narrowed it down to 2, and we narrowed it down to Hunt based on what they were able to provide us in the long run. That was what we were looking for, and that was based out from conversations we had with our facilities committee. What we were looking for, what kind of a document we wanted at the end, and Hunt seemed to kind of match those needs the best.
Okay,
So
thanks.
follow up, I imagine you do it, but do you check with other school districts that have worked with them to make sure? I mean, that's
yes.
all part of the process?
Absolutely. It's part of the process.
Okay.
So we call their references, we speak to their references, see how they performed on their other projects, how they did for them as well.
Excellent. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of work.
It does, but
So
It's
take
good stuff.
take the survey when the link is emailed or when you get your postcard. It's not it's to gauge the temperature. So
it shouldn't take that. I mean, it's
5 minutes is what, 8 questions?
8 questions.
okay. See, that's and totally manageable. I mean, you don't want anybody feeling I don't have time. But
Yeah,
that's huge.
that's what we've been discussing. That's what we discussed in finance, how to
Yeah.
make it easier, how to.
You don't want it for everybody else. I mean, again, you need the feedback, and you have to make it so it works for those individuals as well. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, and we'll look forward to your presentation in 3 weeks. Take Thursday off, though. Don't get to it then. Take Thursday off.
Appreciate that.
Oh, I thought he was going to empty it. I'm like, I didn't know there was more. That does bring us to the end of our meeting. Are there any other items? Board comments, new business?
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Absolutely. Exactly. Enjoy the time with your family, your friends. Travel safe. Just enjoy it. fun. It's great. It's the start of it, so rest up and eat up and enjoy.
Started the stress.
Rest up. Our next Board of Ed meeting will be here at the library 3 weeks from tomorrow night on Wednesday, December 14th. If I can have a motion to close.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.